The state is about to borrow $2 billion to cover its expenses. The state already has $13 billion in outstanding debt, making it the most indebted state per capita. Connecticut is kind of a microcosm of what's happening all over the country. The U.S. debt just surpassed $13 trillion, and our GDP, the whole thing, is $14 trillion. You can see on the chart how the debt is on target to overtake the GDP, and that could lead to skyrocketing interest rates, inflation. Remember the 1970s, stagflation? We could all see a return to that, which is why bond traders like Dan Fuss already are selling their treasury bonds. Now, the value of these bonds decrease as the threat of higher interest rates increase. Fuss has said, quote, the incremental borrower of funds in the U.S. capital market is rapidly becoming the U.S. Treasury. Do you really want to buy the debt of the biggest issuer? You see the contradiction here? So, question, what if China, for example, took Fuss's advice? What would that do to our debt? We wouldn't have anybody to sell it to. Here to score all this for us is Peter Schiff. He is author of How the Economy Grows and Why It Crashes. Now, he is running against Linda McMahon, by the way, in Connecticut's August 10th Republican primary. Do any of these issues, Peter, rise to the level of something you discuss to the general voters?
Well, of course. I mean, I wouldn't buy Connecticut general obligation bonds with Linda McMahon's money. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that unless the state of Connecticut makes dramatic cuts to the salaries and benefits of existing and retired state workers, or if we don't get a federal bailout, the state of California will default on its bonds. I mean, they don't have a printing press, and, you know, they're cooking the books Greek style in Hartford. You know, the Democrats that control the legislature have done everything they can to postpone the day of reckoning. But it's coming.
Hold on a second. I don't doubt your charge, but I want you to explain it. How are they cooking the books?
With all sorts of gimmicks where they do things where they sell off future revenues, and they borrow, and they try to pretend, they paper over the true size of the deficits. They refuse to acknowledge the fact that the state of Connecticut has overspent and overpromised. They just raised taxes on the top income earners, the employers in this state, from 5 to 6.5%. If they raise them again, if they try to tax their way out of this mess, they're going to chase more businesses out of the state.
That's what happens.
And it's already, you know, we've already chased a lot out with Dick Blumenthal, who's my potential opponent in the in the Senate race. He's voted the worst attorney general of the state because he's sued so many businesses out of state.
Just to remind the viewers, he's the guy that had the problem with his Vietnam history. You know, he apparently was caught in some contradictions there. But let me just ask, hold on a second, Peter, hold on a second, because the question is, a lot of people diminish the intelligence of the voters, and they say, oh, no, these issues are too complicated, they wouldn't get it. Well, voters are getting it, aren't they? They're putting together the details of the fact that you have a certain amount of money coming in, and it's not enough to pay for what's going out, and it is beginning to affect us.
Oh, actually, it's going to affect us a lot more, too, when we start printing the money to bail out all these indebted states or indebted agencies or the federal government itself. See, that's the real problem, is the printing press. Because when you pay by printing money, you debase the value of the money, and it's the same thing as default, only it affects even more people because it affects people that didn't even buy the bonds or loan the money. Because when we start printing money, everybody loses. People that have money in pensions, people whose salary gets debased, if they have money in savings, cash value of their annuities, everybody loses.
By the way, we just mentioned Mr. Fuss. There was also the head of PIMCO saying a similar thing today, that they're getting rid of some of their bonds because they think the value of buying U.S. debt is going down, and eventually interest rates will go up. When do you think that happens? When will we begin to see the spike in interest rates?
Well, you know, the bonds are a bubble, and so you never know when a bubble is going to find its pin. But you do know one thing: it will find it, and there are a lot of pins out there. And remember, the biggest buyers of our bonds are in China, are in Japan, are in Saudi Arabia. They're all around the world. And eventually, they are going to figure out that we can't pay, that there's no way that we can pay them back in real money. All we have is a printing press. And once they figure this out, they're going to flee our debt as quickly as they're trying to get rid of Greek debt. And that is when we have to make the real hard choices that no one wants to make. That's why I'm running for the United States Senate. I want to make sure we make the right choice and not the wrong choice, because that's what we're doing now.
Peter, we've got to leave it at that. And, of course, we invite anybody who's running against Peter to appear on Scoreboard as well. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks very much.